Ian, this is apparently now the Fancy Pants panel. So that's the official name. We're going with Fancy Pants.
Only the fanciest pants.
And we are in the Zoom generation, so pants. Hopefully it's a thing now. We gotta get back. We gotta get back to pants. It's good. All right. So welcome everybody. As Ian said, my name is Ron Edgar. I am the team leader out here for KW Elite. We have about to have 4 offices. We're in Surrey, Port Coquitlam. If you can say Port Coquitlam, I will buy you a beer next time we see you. Also Maple Ridge and soon to be Coquitlam. So 2 beer. There you go. Excellent. So do we have Judy? Right now we got Suzanne, no. Irene, Chris.
Maybe soon, but not quite yet. So
no problem. She's closing a $36 million deal right now. I just made that up, but it could be true. It could be true. So it's Vancouver. It's a 3-bedroom condo. It's fantastic. All right, so let's go around the table and let everybody introduce themselves. Let's start with Irene. Tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and then we'll start there and then we'll get through the questions.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Ron. Suzanne, nice to see you. Chris, nice to actually see your face. We've talked, we've emailed. This is the first time I see your face, so glad to be on here with you. Hi, everybody. I'm Irene Kashansky from the KW Portfolio Office in Toronto. This is my 30th year in real estate, 13th with, that's another tongue twister, 13th with Keller Williams. Very happy to be here with you guys. Looking forward to sharing.
Awesome. Thank you. Suzanne?
Hi, everyone. I am Suzanne Lewis at Keller Williams Advantage. Very excited to be on this panel as well. This is my 11th year in real estate, and I'm based in Toronto in the East End. I mainly work and live around the Riverdale area, but we definitely service clients all over the city as well, and from Toronto.
Awesome. And is it Chris or Christopher?
Christopher, but I get called
Christopher. There you go. So you shorten. There you go, Christopher. Because it's luxury. We got to use the full name. You can call me Ronald for the rest of it.
My wife calls me a lot of different things, so whatever works for you. My name is Christopher Fusco. I'm from the Avenue Realty team, and I'm operating out of Keller Williams Legacies. I was fortunate enough to join the Keller Williams family just over a year ago, and Irene was the second person I talked to. So glad to be on a panel with her. A little daunting. I've seen her take over chat rooms with Gary and Brady on them. So looking forward to being able to spend some time with everyone.
This will not be the shy panel, which is awesome. That's fantastic. Makes my job very easy. All right, so Christopher, let's continue with you. So what defines real estate for you, or for luxury real estate for you? How does it differ?
Well, I mean, I think it might even differ between luxury realtors. For us in our book of business, we tend to work with a lot of CEOs, CFOs, or entrepreneurs. So a lot of times what that means for us is showing up in the same way that they're accustomed to in their boardrooms, in whatever arena that they're operating in. And I think the way we do that is generally a function of how we communicate, our depth of knowledge, and the attention to detail. So, and as I said, it might differ from one luxury realtor to the other, but that's where our clientele comes from. So, to really deliver a service at a level that they're accustomed to in whatever arena they're in, that they're achieving at a high level.
Well, we've got a bunch of questions we're going to go through, but I will deep dive and throw you the occasional curveball if that's okay. Do I have permission to throw some curveballs? They won't be evil. But so how much research do you do before you sit down with a client? If you're going to sit down at the same level with them, you got to do some R&D, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a numbers-based person, so I like to look at a lot of different statistics and kind of always have a thirst for knowledge. But I think the thing to recognize as well is where their leverage in the real estate industry. So it's not necessarily that they have the knowledge themselves. They're probably aware of things, but we can give them the in-depth knowledge at the same level to which they have that knowledge in whatever industry they're in. And so it's our day-to-day that adds to the sort of the experience for them, and understanding that even sometimes what you're reading in the papers is a little bit different than what's happening when you're running around and you're moving and you're shaking, because a lot of times we can feel the market changing before people are reading about the market changing. And given those types of insights and being able to talk about the data with them and then connect that to what's actually going on, I think is what helps them have the trust in us to be able to support them at a high level.
Awesome. Thank you. And Suzanne, same question. For you, what defines luxury real estate?
Well, to be honest, I started off in the area that has risen tremendously over the last decade. Homes in the area that I generally trade in, it's hard to find one under $2 million. So, the market appreciation has naturally moved it to what would be called a luxury client. But just talking about, I think similar to what Christopher said, it's really about service. And ultimately, we kind of just sit down and say, what is it that you need? How can we support you? And we provide back to them what they are looking for. I've got different clients who are in a $3 million property and some who are in a $6 million property. And some of them want, you to be there full time, hand holding the entire time. I've had clients who've literally given me the keys to their home and said, I'm moving out of the country. Call me when I have an offer on the table, and just watch over my house. Do as you see, and just bring us an offer. So I think it really depends on like Christopher said, on the kind of client and the kind of agent. Christopher said he's a numbers person. I'm a relationships person, and I think the people who I work with are ones who really have a lot of trust in what we do and the services that we provide.
Fantastic. So you really are personalizing your service to that client, and that is their expectation, right?
Absolutely. I think that there are some agents out there who put together and say, this is my business model. I kind of always looked at it as, how can I help you? You don't have to fit me, I have to fit you. And different clients have different needs and different wants, and we will tailor the business to them.
Awesome. Irene, same question. How do you define luxury real estate?
It's a little hard to follow those two because they took so many.
You have to make up totally new stuff.
Totally yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I will add to the attention to detail and personal, not just personal service, but extremely personalized. Like Suzanne had mentioned, everybody is so different, and it's where the listening comes in, and really truly not just listening, hearing what those specialties will be in them, and then providing that anticipatory service. So what are you going to do for them before they even know that they need it or want it? I'll never forget sorry?
No, go ahead. I was going to ask if you used a particular brand of crystal ball or.
Yeah, it's my own personal one. I created
Excellent.
it. It's the best. It's trademarked. I'm not sharing it. The first time I stayed at a Four Seasons, and it was as if they were reading my mind. And every time we go to Austin now, I think I've only stayed at the JW Marriott once. All the other times, it's the Four Seasons, because they know me, they welcome me when I get there. They do everything that I think I need even before it shows up in my head. So translating that into the real estate experience and tailoring each property, each service level to each property and to each client, like Suzanne said, because they're all different, and it's not a one size fits all. And you have to be on your A game all the time. You have to have your A game team behind you to be able to do that. And Suzanne was focusing on the relationships. Christopher's focusing on the data. The way we approach clients is a little bit of both. So it's kind of neat following the two of you, because we do a lot of that research ahead of time. My husband, Philip, is a research junkie. He really takes time to find out who the clients are before we show up, so that we know what we're walking into. And then the relationship building starts. So it really allows us to create that tailored experience.
Fantastic. So I want to, later on, we'll get back to team and who you have on your roster to help you do what you do. So I deal with a lot of new agents who are either new to KW or new to the industry. And every once in a while, I get somebody like, well, what do you want to focus on? I want to do luxury homes. And they've been a real estate agent for, 4 minutes. So did you start in real estate? Would you recommend that agents start in real estate, in luxury real estate? Sorry. How do you define yourselves into the luxury market? Let's start with Irene. We'll keep going.
Yeah. I'll start with that. No, I started in 1992. I was 24 years old, and I knew nothing and nobody, and Fortunately, I didn't look 24. I looked more mature. So I did have a little bit of clout behind me, but I knew nothing. And 4 years in was when I got my first luxury listing. It was a referral from a past client, and the owner of the property was in Abu Dhabi, and they were selling property on Whitney Avenue in Rosedale. And at the time, we priced it at $1,495,000, and it didn't sell because it was priced too high. Imagine that, Suzanne, eh?
Wow. Remember the
And,
days of $1 million listings? It was a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So we did end up selling it in that 1.2 level mark, which at the time was a lot. And I did not work that listing as well as I should have, as well as I could have. I was too young. I didn't know what I was doing. So when people say, well, I'd like to start in luxury, as long as you have the right Rolodex behind you and the right mentorship in front of you, you can do that. I certainly wouldn't recommend it right off the bat because, like Christopher mentioned, these people are well-versed and knowledgeable, and they have the resources around them. So you cannot fake it till you make it in luxury. You really
So
have
I can't pull up in my 1992 Honda Civic and my suit from Moores. So you're saying?
I think you
Well,
You think you can? All right.
not.
This is actually a question I want to ask. So what are the expectations of you and how you present yourselves to your clients?
Well, going back to my very, very, very first Institute of Luxury Home training session, you don't have to live the lifestyle. You do not have to drive the most expensive car or have the most expensive suit. You have to be competent and confident, and you have to be presentable. You don't have to be flash. You just have to make sure that the people that are in front of you that already know a lot more than a lot of other people, that you can impress upon them the fact that you actually know your stuff and you can take care of them and you can provide that service level to them.
Excellent.
And if you don't have those characteristics and you're wearing the nice suit and the flashy car, it's not going to fly.
Substance has to be backed up with the presentation, right? I remember early in my business days being told by somebody, you don't have to wear $1,000 shoes, but the shoes you have better be polished and they better be clean, right? Just so you can present yourself. Suzanne, same question. So how did you get your start into luxury?
So when I joined Keller Williams, I got my license actually when I was about 9 months, about a month or so out from giving birth to my son. So I had a little one at home. I joined about 6 months later. And so I was given the book, the MRA book, and these people said, here, look at this book, read it, follow it. And I said, okay, I didn't know any different to do anything else. And what it said was, go after listings. That's the number one thing. I said, great, I'll go after listings, but I had these 2 little ones at home and I couldn't be gone for very long. So I thought I'll just door knock in my neighborhood, which happens to be Riverdale, and started working in that neighborhood and had a listing or 2. And then I was invited to a really, by a referral, a really important listing in the neighborhood. And I remember being on the call before I went for the listing presentation. They said to me, well, when you get here, we want to know how many listings you sold in Riverdale. And at that point, actually, I hadn't. So I was still working on that. And how many you'd sold close to the $2 million mark. And the answer for both of those was 0. And I was so nervous to go into that listing thinking, well, what am I going to say to these people? And my background prior to being in real estate was in sort of a higher end advertising capacity as the advertising director at an architecture and design magazine. So I really honed in on architecture and design. I had spent many years with a lot of these designers and really understanding architecture, etc. So when I walked into this person's home, I just immediately said, oh, is that a Patricia Urquiola? And he's like, it's a knockoff. And I'm like, get out. And we just started chatting. And it was that moment, I think, that they realized, you get me. You understand this house. You understand what we're trying to sell. You understand our market, our target market. I told them that if I got the listing, I was going to throw an event when we could. I was going to throw an event and invite all the people I knew from the architecture and design world, which I did. And they were like, yeah, you got the listing. So they never asked me again about selling houses in Riverdale. They never asked me again about the price point. And it ended up being a record breaker in the area. So I think to Irene's point too, it's like, you know, the people that you know and digging into the people that you know, and having the support of the people around you, and just going in with the confidence and feeling comfortable, and just really connecting with people, I think was really important.
So if you're a newer agent coming into that, and the opportunity arises, you can rise to the occasion like you just did, right?
Absolutely. You know what? I mean, it was interesting because when I started selling these homes, again, these were like $2 million homes, or at that point, this was 10 years ago, this was like 1.6, 1.7, which was, you know, $3 million. I heard from another person in the office, oh, this agent would feel so uncomfortable going into this house. And I was like, well, I didn't understand why. I just always felt very, you know, like, I mean, people are people, and I want to do great things for you, but I feel like the initial connection was architecture and design, that I really sort of connected with people in the area for initially. And then, you know, I kind of went a little bit, you know, deeper, because I came from a magazine world. I wanted to promote their homes like it was a magazine. So, you know, the advertising, everything I did was magazine style. And that really sort of created a name in the luxury market as well.
Nice. So usable skills you translate over, which are fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Christopher, did you get your start directly into luxury?
Yeah, I guess to an extent I did. What I did is I went after my personal sphere. And at that time, I was just a little bit older than Irene was when she would have started in the business. But my direct personal sphere wasn't necessarily buying luxury homes. However, I didn't go after just them. I went after their parents as well. And a lot of, you know, those people who would have been acquainted with me, you know, growing up and whatnot, had an understanding as to sort of the level at which I accomplished things. And so there was almost an underlying level of trust at the outset. And then I think what ended up happening, really, you know, feeding off of what both Irene and Suzanne said, you know, people are people, and it's competence. So when you show up, if you've got that competence and you can show them that you've got the knowledge and the ability to serve them, it doesn't matter what they've accomplished and what you've accomplished. And remembering that you're there, it's a matter of servitude, and you're there to support them with something, they're going to appreciate that. I also had, I guess, a lucky opportunity from the perspective of Emily, who's my mother, had been working and focusing on luxury previously. So what was falling off of her desk, I would just chase all those leads that, you know, run you around and into the ground as much as possible. But that was a learning process as well. And it allowed me to, you know, learn a lot about the industry and a lot about the luxury market. I'd say, you know, you asked the question, you've got these new realtors who are coming to join, and everyone wants to do luxury. It sounds so, as Ian put it, fancy pants-ish. You know, but I truly believe that it's important to build a balanced book of business, because luxury can be a tough arena to play in as well, when we're having to balance on, you know, larger transactions on a consistent basis. There's a bread and butter to the business, and I think building a balanced business and just servicing at a, you know, high level is where you'll end up finding yourself in the luxury market. And that may be where your core is, but they'll give you all sorts of business outside of that market, which will help support and deal with the, you know, the ups and downs of luxury and the ups and downs on the other side of different price points other than luxury.
Yeah. So Irene, just 2 seconds, and then Chris,
Yeah.
for what percentage of your business is luxury? Would you consider luxury right now?
You know, that's an interesting question to ask, I'd say. And I'd probably twist it to what percentage is the source of our business coming from our luxury clients.
Okay.
So if it's more about the spheres. So if we take a look, you know, there's a couple areas where we tend to geo-farm, you know, for a long-term basis, and can be successful with that. So I'd say that they probably represent somewhere around 75 to 80% of our advocates. And you know, that's where we get called for the listings, where, you know, land can be 2.5, the big homes can be, you know, 10 to 15, you know, million. So that's that area, but that's not necessarily representing 75 to 85% of our business. However, them as a lead source and the referrals, their children, their grandchildren, that is where they probably represent that 75 to 85% of our business. So from a lead source perspective.
Fantastic.
Because that's where the relationships are.
Yeah.
I just to tack on to that, I think it's really, really important as you start upping your price point to make sure that you make it clear to your sphere and everybody else that you do work all price points. because the danger is you might start edging up in price, and somebody with a $2 million listing may not want to give you the $600,000 condo referral because they don't think that's a big enough transaction for you. So we had a little short period on our team where we did start experiencing that a little bit. So we quickly shifted and made sure that all of our clients, regardless of price point, understood that we worked all price points, and it wasn't the paycheck that was important to us. It was the client and the relationship and taking care of their family, their kids and grandkids. And it's
Fantastic.
easy to miss that.
It is. What's your average days on market right now
You're talking to
for
me?
a luxury listing? Yeah. Just keep going on Irene for a minute. And then back to
Oh,
Suzanne.
it really so depends on the neighborhood, and it depends on the price. I don't think with that kind of product you can say average days on market.
It's interesting because we're in a market in Vancouver where you've got, our average days on market was around 18 when you looked at all, apartments through to not including luxury. And then we had luxury homes that were on the market for 3.5 years that finally sold. So it's, I don't, as a newer agent coming in or somebody looking to get in luxury, did that surprise you how long you had to market the product? Look at it as a marketing opportunity. Suzanne?
Yeah.
It's funny actually, because I'm thinking about it. Life is so different as it was when we first started, even 10 years ago to now. Now a $3 million house, to be honest, in some kind of ways in certain areas of the city is like what $1 million house was before. But I do also track, because I've got clients in the $5, $6, $7, $8 million, maybe not 8, but 5 or 6 or 7. And I do follow that along. And I would say the days on market are shorter than they used to be. I remember I used to watch some and I'd be like, God, this has been on the market for like 87 days. You don't really see, I don't see that often. Maybe the 10 plus, I'm not sure. But I mean, I was on a really great session a couple of weeks ago with Barry Cohen and Brian Gluckstein and a bunch of higher end. These are some people based out of Toronto. And they were saying, the cottage market for the 10, 20, 30, $40 million. So I mean, I think money flowing is very different today than it was for me 10 years ago when I was following that. So I see shorter days on market. For sure. I mean, we list properties 3.5, and they sell again with proper strategy and right marketing. And there's a lot of pre-marketing that's done for it as well. I think we're still looking at 7 to 14 days max.
If it's priced
Awesome.
right.
If it's priced right. Always comes down to pricing. You're right. So Irene, has the pandemic impacted the luxury market for you?
It certainly affected how we look at things. It's helped us become more efficient. It helped us reevaluate what was really important with respect to marketing. What we were doing, when COVID first hit, we heard just, really come down on your expenses, make sure that your budget is tight, make sure you're not spending money on what you don't need to be spending money on. So we definitely focused on that. And I think out of that, have efficiencies have come out. Definitely. We started to create some online marketing systems that we will never let go of now, because they've just been so effective and sometimes even less costly than they used to be. So I think if anything, it's changed our efficiency. And, to Suzanne's point, and I actually had this conversation with a $5 million listing appointment this morning. It's what the pandemic has done is sort of, it's taken that segment of the market that wasn't affected, and it's given them, more wealth and more opportunities. And we have, in a lot of cases, when the properties are priced right, seen that days on market for $3, $4, $5, $6 million properties shrink, because that's the demographic that's in good shape.
Excellent point.
Unlike a lot of the world.
Christopher, has COVID changed the way you market a product or your approach to a client?
From a marketing perspective, I'd say we were fairly well locked and loaded in terms of being able to respond to COVID. We had 3D tours going through all of our properties, so we didn't necessarily make any changes from that perspective. What I think did happen is it just opened up a giant window of opportunity for communication. and just being able to communicate and have discussions with our clients, with our database to try and reconcile what was happening. It was a fantastic, chance for us to work with our clients. What we saw was almost like a tidal wave up the price point. So, starting in June, we saw the bread and butter moving at a frantic pace, that $1 million to $2 million price point. And by the time we got to the fall, and I would be talking to different realtors, and different realtors can work in different price points, they'd say, well, now it's a little bit quieter for us. But what we saw was the activity level just kind of keep moving up the price point. So all of a sudden in the fall, we had $3 to $4 million listings that had been sitting, speaking to days on the market for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and they were just getting blown out of the neighborhood. And we've seen that happen on an ongoing basis as COVID has continued, where I think, as Irene was indicating, these are people who have continued to accumulate wealth over COVID, have probably been able to step back, assess the situation, determine their comfort level, and determine when they want to engage. And so as time has gone on, we've seen the activity level increase as the price point's been higher. So now we saw it creep into the $4 to $5 million price point when January came. And in York Region in particular, we've seen more $10 million transactions than we generally see over the course of the year thus far, year to date. So it's been interesting, that's for sure.
It sounds like you might have some investment property opportunities with your current client base too, right? As they're sitting on more wealth or more opportunity to expand that out.
So I think that's part of your conversation with your luxury clients at any point in time. Often they're developing real estate portfolios, and it's arithmetic for them. We're sitting on the sidelines. When is the right time to buy? What is the right product to buy? And again, COVID opened up those opportunities for conversation. And I'm sure as it is in British Columbia and in GTA, I'm sure Irene will support this. The windows of opportunity to purchase when there's a lull in the market, it's about like a 30 to 90 day window before it starts again. As soon as someone starts talking about the one market segment or one price point or one area slowing down, half the people who read that article call their mortgage broker and get ready to go. So it's interesting that way for sure.
Fantastic. All right. Anybody have anything else to add to that as far as the opportunities that create? Suzanne?
Yeah, just one thing to add about like how things did, how COVID has shifted things. I know that at the very beginning, like March, April of last year, there are a lot of agents who work in the neighborhood that I work in as well, and we have good relationships. And we were all calling each other, going, "Oh my God, like we've got these houses that we're either getting ready to sell, needed to sell. They already bought prior to COVID. How are we going to make this happen? There's a stay-at-home order. Nobody wants people in their house, And so there was a lot of hey, I've got this property, let's match these people up. And a lot of that happened at the beginning of that time. And out of that have developed some exclusive networks of agents that I know I'm working with in Toronto. So there's a couple groups, one in particular that is just all high-end exclusives that we share with each other on a daily, weekly basis. Either they're exclusive or they're going to be coming to market. So they're being prepared to come to market. And I think that also is for a luxury client. It's like, yeah, we've got access to properties that are not on MLS. And, even like to Irene's point, I happen to have a client who wants to buy a particular property. I happen to know somebody who has that kind of property. Just call them up and we just had a conversation. I said, listen, if I could bring this to you, would you be interested? He's like, yeah, maybe I would. These are not properties that are not on MLS. So I think COVID has really upped the point where we really have to have connections and contacts. And that is so important. Just sitting there waiting for something to show up on MLS. I mean, anyone could do that. It's really going in there and like digging in for the data. I've even had clients who've said to me like, hey, Suzanne, I love that house. If I can get that house to buy, I would buy that house. And, we made it happen.
You started off door knocking, so why not continue, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a buyer for your $36 million house. Fantastic. So marketing your products. Irene, you mentioned your team earlier. So who's on your roster? Who are the essential people that help you do what you do and build a successful luxury real estate business?
Yeah, I think no one succeeds alone, right? So that's a really important question. At this point, we have a listing and marketing manager. His position started March 1st of 2020. How's that? So yes, so we were very grateful to have him last year. It was very huge help. We have a client care manager who is responsible for the listing activities and the closing activities. When we can, she'll also be responsible for events. And then we have marketing and sales partner. She does part-time marketing, and she's also our showing assistant and takes our buyer overflow. So that's the admin level of the team, the admin hub. And then we have one buyer agent who's with us now, and another one we are in the process of bringing on. And then of course there's my husband, but he's just my husband. No, he's a huge help. He's our visionary, he's our planner, he's our bigger picture thinker. He really keeps me, even keel when I start doing my salesperson freak out, which we are all very wont to do once in a while. So yeah, it's a small team. It's a small team where we're very grateful. We're very productive. Right now for 2021, we're at 41 transactions closed and pending, and that's just over 51 million. So we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate.
Outside of your admin hub and your husband and your buyer's agents, who else do you have, in the wings on the photography side or the staging side or the associated resources?
Well, we don't have any of our own full-time stagers or photographers, but we absolutely have the best of the best for staging and photography and videography, digital marketing. Those are resources, like Christopher said. I mean, they were pretty set for us initially. We just needed to make sure that they kept doing everything that they were supposed to and doing it really, really well. Because regardless of a price point, you can't have a listing not look good. It's whether it's a little condo in Liberty Village or a $5 million home, they have to look good. You might spend a little bit less money on one of the smaller properties, but everything has to look great. We have another new vendor that we have brought on. They're movers. So for those clients that have a lot of decluttering to do and they're in overwhelm, we have that service as well. We will bring in the movers, get the stuff out, get it stored, so then we can help prep the house and stage it. So it's upping that level of service. I get it, both Suzanne and Christopher had mentioned it. It's really an expectation. And, in the absence of value, price becomes an issue. Mm-hmm. Clients are feeling like they have value, they will not question your fee or what's being charged.
We're going to talk about listing presentation in a minute. I love when you feed me questions. It's fantastic. So Christopher, same question. What do you do to prepare a property? What do you do to prepare your clients? Anything unique?
Well, we've got a team of Emily and I as the team leaders who cause a lot of mess, and we have a fantastic support crew who clean.
And then you have people with buckets, right?
Yes, and they point us in the right directions and make sure we do the right things. We have Angela, who's our listing manager, and I really don't know how listings go live without her. Michelle, who's been with us, I think, since 2007, so two longtime employees as the transaction, coordinator. We have recently brought on additional realtors. We've got 3 additional realtors to Emily and I. And we have a licensed executive assistant who started in January, and I'm not sure how I was able to breathe before without her. It's quite unbelievable, and it's made a big difference in terms of the level that we can service our clients at, because it allows Emily and I to have a lot of the conversations and the contact with our clients that otherwise was a little bit more challenging to do. Our support system beyond our immediate, team family. We've got photographers that we've worked with since like the early 2000s. And we keep 2 different, teams, one that focuses also on the digital marketing side from the multimedia perspective. 3 different stagers that we'll continue to utilize. And what we like about them is that they'll then integrate that moving package. They'll then integrate the different support that our clients need extremely well. So it's we're thankful for all our support. As I said, they clean up after us.
I want to ask what your average budget is, and I'm sure that fluctuates based on the value of the property. Is it a percentage of the sale price, or is it a set budget per?
No, I mean, I think with our providers, we have different packages that, you know, the process that we've negotiated is relative to the size of the asset that they're taking photography of. So, you know, it's only fair that if they're going to have to go in and deal with 18,000 square feet of space and photos, that's going to come in at a different figure than when we send them to handle a, you know, 1,000 square foot condo. Yeah. So, you know, the package itself is, I'd say, still from a level perspective, and this is what Irene was saying, it still has to look good. Mm-hmm. The package is very similar in terms of what's provided. You know, when we present our, you know, 600 square foot condo and our 12,000 square foot home, the package itself is very similar. The amount of, and in some instances, the content of can differentiate, but that's product specific as well. You know, you could have two 12,000 square foot homes and you're still going to differentiate your package because in some instances, aerial could hurt the property. So you won't do it. You know, so it's really, you know, feeding off of what Suzanne talked about as well, is customizing, and customizing not just to the person, but to the property, and what's going to, you know, really showcase the lifestyle that is best to be exuded from that property so someone can buy into it.
So understanding the value points or the selling points of each property is going to be critical for you, right?
Well, we're looking for the A+ buyer. Yeah. And, you know, you can have a B buyer, a B- buyer, an A- buyer, but who's the A+ buyer? Having an ability to, you know, at the outset, target that A+ buyer, but then also the flexibility based on the feedback that you're getting to pivot and make adjustments. And I think it's when we do those pivots and adjustments as well, that helps build confidence from our clients, because they see that, you know, this is a team game and we're working together to the end result, which is, you know, based on them achieving their goals.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. Suzanne, same question. How do you market? Who's on the team?
You know what, actually, there's a great lead in, because what Christopher just said, just finding the best solution, not just for the client, but also for the property. And it just brings me back to an example of, I think, also what started really pushing this sort of more luxury or higher end clientele. About 6 years ago or so, I had the opportunity to work on a listing also in Riverdale that was with another agent before and didn't sell. It sat on the market for a while, and we took over the listing. And because it was such a unique house, it actually was sort of built on a hill and it had like 6 levels to it. And I really wanted to showcase the vastness of this home and how it moved and how it could move with families, and obviously family in the area that I work in is very important. So, you know, I pulled inspiration sometimes from other markets around the world. And so I used to spend a lot of time watching videos from Australia or from California or from New York. And the whole lifestyle video that we see now was really quite new back then. Like, no one really in Toronto was doing that. And so I actually went to a commercial company and hired them to shoot a commercial style sort of video in the home. I used my children for it because they were free, but the idea was basically like a hide and seek throughout a house. And the kids were running from different areas to different areas. It ended up, you know, I think garnering quite a bit of media because it was such a unique take on promoting the home. But not only that, you know, because I was in the advertising world before, you know, I didn't actually just hire photographers. I hired the photographers from like House and Home magazine. These are magazines based in Toronto. You know, instead of spending $300 for photography or $400, I would spend a lot more, but I'd have this, you know, and it would be in their portfolio. So they would also sometimes promote, you know, I just took this amazing picture. And so the cross promotion has always been a really big thing for me and for the business. And so having different people on a project that could also be promoting it. And then in those days too, I mean, I say those days, but 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago, the shareability of a video was pretty unique. it just so happened to be from a well-known person's home. It was Gord Downey's house at the Tragically Hip. So that was also helped to kind of push out the video quite a bit. But it was really like, we took a house that's on the market for I think 3 weeks at that point, and then completely turned it upside down and sold it pretty much right away. And that was just, I mean, that was sort of one of the ways in which we adapted and pivoted to a unique situation. As well, what we did a couple of years ago prior to COVID was I created a partnership with the Broadview Hotel, which is a sort of a boutique hotel here in Toronto. And basically the promotion was if you worked with us, you would get a complimentary weekend to stay at the hotel. And that was actually, they promoted it as well. So that was a really great way to continue our branding. As far as our team goes, it is myself and Laura, who I believe is on the call somewhere, who is an amazing marketing director. She does everything that I don't do. And she actually started as well beginning of last year. So she's just kind of went from here to here very, very quickly. And then Lindsay, who's our buyer rep, another buyer agent who's currently on mat leave. So now it's just us.
There you go.
So we're busy. Yeah.
It's like, let's get done here. We got stuff to do. So did the hip choose the soundtrack for your video, or?
No, actually, Gord specifically said a lot. Like, yes, you could do it. He said you cannot. Well, again, this was open house time, but he said you can play anything you want. You just can't play hip stuff. And I was like, no problem. I'm gonna play jazz. He's like, that's so boring, but okay.
Gordon Lightfoot it is. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Right.
Choose another Gord. No, they were really happy with it.
I have
Awesome.
to say, the lifestyle video concept was much bigger, like Suzanne mentioned, in the US and other areas abroad. And I had just kept watching these incredible lifestyle videos from these realtors all over outside of Canada. And it was when I saw Suzanne's video, I thought, okay, we have to do this. So thank you for the inspiration to actually kick me into Canadian gear for that, Suzanne. We've never looked back. COVID slowed us down a little bit. I do anticipate that when we can, we'll be doing many more lifestyle videos again.
Yeah,
I have to think that lifestyle is more important now than it ever has been, in the
Absolutely.
past. So yeah, it's going to ramp back up. Great. It's one of the questions from Sheila Morrison. The other question is, have you been doing virtual open houses? So you've always had the drone footage and the high class photography. By the way, the hidden message out here is for any agent who is taking pictures on their phone, stop it. Just stop it. Pay the money. Hire a photographer.
Pay the money.
Stop it. Yeah. So virtual opens, and then we'll get to the next question. Anybody doing virtuals or no?
Yeah, I mean, I actually bought watchvirtualopenhouse.com at the very, very beginning. And so we use that on all of our signs. And then it basically just filters into the website, which actually then filters into, we've tried a bunch of different kinds, to be perfectly honest. They're not awesome. I mean, I like people, right? Like I like to connect with people, and doing it all, I don't know. But we still do it. But again, leaning back to the luxury client, a lot of our luxury clients don't even want that. They really want the one-on-one, like, let me take you through the house on the on the sort of, like it's sort of, so it's
You need to experience the property.
They want their home to be sold, and they want it to be presented less so than being put on the internet. Or certainly, again, I've got clients who in regular days would have never wanted an open house. They wouldn't want people going through their home in that way.
Yeah. So by appointments, unless you're doing an event, maybe when we can get back to doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did a lot of events where we had music, and we had catering, we had champagne, and I mean that was something different, and it was a very it was an invite only kind of list. But the traditional open house, I don't know if we're going to go back to that ever.
I remember going through our shifting market out here, and one of our luxury agents, he'd have the Maserati in the driveway, and the servers, and the basically the ice sculpture. And there was one that actually had a mermaid in the swimming pool. Not joking. And then there was a shift in the market, and I remember walking into his open, and there was like a Costco, sandwich tray, and he was pouring the wine. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're in a shift. Neat. That's budget accordingly, right?
We started experimenting just when COVID hit with a variety of different types of virtual open houses. At one point, we had 4 people for each open house. So we would have me in front of the camera, usually Todd behind the camera. We would have Bridget monitoring the Zoom, and then Robin sitting in trying to answer questions from interested buyers. And what we figured, much like Suzanne said, like it wasn't working. Open houses are people to people. Let me meet you. Let me talk to you. Let me shake your hand. Let me have a conversation with you about something other than the house. It's that connection, all getting back to connections. So we stopped doing those completely because they weren't effective. They were extremely time consuming and very labor intensive. So right now for our traditional real estate, I will go in with, we call it Wally, a gimbal and my phone, and just do Wally. Well, because it spins around, and we call him Wally. And I'll just do a 10-15 minute open house through the house. And what we do is we do those regularly. So we just generate traffic on our social media. It's not the trying to capture the leads and trying to woo people in that we used to do. I don't know. We love open houses. A lot of our business up until the pandemic, almost 20% of our business was coming from open houses. Not so much from people walking into the house, but the follow-up after for months and years. So we miss that. But like Suzanne, both Christopher and Suzanne were saying, a lot of the higher end properties, they don't want that.
Right.
And those walk around outside, and that's it.
Would you all do a combination of realtor opens as well as client opens, or would client showings be by appointment only and specific?
So for our upper end, clientele group, we really were not facilitating open houses, not before, and I can't imagine us, ever really going down that road. There may be rare occasions where, for the product, maybe what's on the outside is not matching what's on the inside, and we want to really draw people in. But it wasn't something that we were utilizing. So we didn't, go through the virtual open house endeavor. But I just want to draw on something that Irene said, which I think is important to anybody listening on this virtual panel right now. She said we would do follow-up, and she defined it by time, months and years. And, I think that's just such an amazing point, because a lot of people look at luxury realtors who are bringing listings to the market and, oh, there's another one. But what they don't realize is that is half a decade, over a decade worth of work, or, over 12 months, over 13 months worth of work. And so I think that's, something that's really important for people to understand. And it's, I know it was just part of your response, Irene, to a different question. But it is, I think, extremely important for people to understand that in the luxury market, it's a long game that you're working with. And it's a relationship that's being built, not on a listing presentation or a walkthrough. And it is a relationship that's being built over a long-term period of time.
Yeah, I think that's really, 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 really important. It's critical. Fortune's in the follow-up.
And it's a great opportunity for you as a real estate agent, and any real estate agent or anybody in the industry. When the days on market shrinks to less than 30 days, you don't have the opportunity to tell your story, right? If that happened with luxury, great paychecks, but you're not building the referrals, you're not building the persona and the brand and the awareness, right? Excellent. One final question to tie a bow on the marketing side. So what physical collateral are you creating for your properties? Is that consistent? Do you create the brochure? Go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, so we're still creating the brochure, and our philosophy around the brochure is maybe a little bit different. We really do provide an integration of pictorial plus information. Just in a lot of instances, especially when we're getting sort of up there from a price point perspective, it's not about the 4 walls. It can be about what's behind the 4 walls. It can be about what it's more the neighborhood, it's more the lifestyle. How are they going to live? Where are the schools? What are the community activities? So it's more of a booklet than anything else. I think there's probably an ongoing investigation on that for us in terms of how effective is that, and how often are people really consuming and absorbing it. It is a good tool when we're present for our upper end listings. So depending on the product and the price point, even as the listing realtor, we're present to show the property to the cooperating brokers. And it is a great tool to just explain to people where they can get their information that we've collected that we want them to have. Because at the end of the day, if they're making a $3 million, $4 million, $5 million, $10 million purchase, they want to know the details. And so it's a good guide. But I think, if we hand out 5, there's probably only 1, but it's worth it because that one is the one who really cares about the floor plans. They care about, when the windows were done, they care about the construction of the property, and that's probably what helps facilitate the sale. But of course, delivering that both on an integrated basis, paper and online is I think the key, and being able to drive people to the information in the best way they want to consume it.
Excellent. I guess what we've learned over the last 18 months, however long it's been going on, is clients want to be approached different ways, right? So some people still want to physically touch and feel something, and some people just want to go online and get the information. So excellent. All right. Any final comments on? We're down to 5 minutes. Any final comments? I'm going to ask you the killer question. Dun, 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 dun. Comments on marketing? We're good. All right. So I'm going to make it 2-part. We're going to start with Irene. So what do you attribute your success in the real estate market, luxury real estate market, to, and why do your clients choose you to represent them and their properties?
So the
Told you it was
first
the killer
answer-
question.
Yeah, it was the killer question. And,
Yeah.
and I gave some thought to this, and just to sort of segue into what Christopher was saying, attributing my success, definitely tenacity and persistence, and not taking the first no as a no. I mean, that goes for any price point, but it can be more intimidating once you start getting into the affluent market. And, to tack on to Christopher again, the $5 million appointment that we have this week, it started 2 years ago. It was an agent referral for her mother, who owns the property here in Toronto. The agent's out of town, and they decided not to move. Then COVID hit, and now she's restarted the process again. And the reason this agent called me was, she said, Mom called in her old agent and she wasn't happy with what she heard. And I said to her, Irene is the only one that stayed in touch for 2 years. She's given us value and she hasn't been annoying. If she's putting that much effort into staying in touch with us, what's she going to be like when you hire her? Like, oh, you should be a walking billboard. So yeah, it's that tenacity, it's that pleasant persistence. It's really, really important. And it's where a lot of people give up. A lot of agents.
She hasn't been annoying.
She hasn't been. She actually
been annoying.
Those words.
So
Yeah,
you got to think of what other experiences are they having out there, right? That's
right.
That's great.
Yeah. And why do clients choose us? We care. It's not a cliche. We really do. And it just goes to everything that everybody said earlier today. It's making sure that you care for the whole client and you make them understand that you care. It's them and their well-being and their transaction. Maybe there's not a transaction. Maybe it makes sense for you to say no right now. And maybe that's in their best interest. And people feel that, they understand that. And I think right now in the pandemic, they feel that more than ever before.
You bet. That's awesome. Yeah, and the authenticity of it too, right?
And they feel when it's absent.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Suzanne, same question.
Well, I think everybody's different and is looking for different things. And so again, we try to tailor what we do to people, whether or not they're more focused on, the style, the art, the architecture, the service. But one thing I think is just interesting is just also digging into a little bit more of the data as well. I do have a client who I work with family members, and he's the father, and he has a very large property in the Forest Hill area. And so he's already has some trust and knows me a little bit because I've already helped with his kids trying to, buy and sell some properties. But he had said to me, a couple of weeks ago, I said, listen, just give me an opportunity to speak with you. That's all I'm asking is for an opportunity to have a conversation. He said, well, I really think I should work with some of the heavy hitters in the neighborhood, the people who do most of the business in the neighborhood. I said, okay. And, and I sort of went in, I did a history of his entire street, of history of ever up that street, and the last, 6 months of his neighborhood. And I said, just want to let you know that the people who you think are like the heavy hitters in your neighborhood have sold never on your street and haven't sold a single property in your neighborhood for 6 months. Neither have I. But let's have an opportunity to talk. The perception is always, you keep getting their mailers in the mail, and you think that this is what's happening. Here's the real data. And you know what? When you look at who's selling properties, it's all different names. And maybe it's because people just want to work with people they know and trust. And then he was
Perfect.
like, do you know someone I know and trust? I'm like, I do. So I think it's also just, kind of, knowing and trusting. I think that's really ultimately what people are looking for, somebody that they trust. Yeah.
There's a smart guy in Austin who says, be your local expert of choice or something like that. Anyway, Christopher, bring us home. The last nugget of wisdom before Bo and Ian yank me off of here.
Oh, I'm sure they'll have fun yanking us all off in our fancy pants too.
That's true. We'll set up a side group for any. No, just joking. Sorry.
Well, I'll keep seated, but I do have pants on, just keeping it safe. Consistency is the big one for us, and I think that's something to take away for anybody. It doesn't matter whether it's luxury or not luxury, but being consistent how you show up, being consistent how you communicate, being consistent about putting your clients in front of your own needs. So your clients need to really believe and understand that when there's a fork in the road, and one option is, to go to the right, which might be a little bit better for Christopher, and the other option is to go to the left, which is better for the client. I know my clients are 100%, 110% confident that I'm sending them to the left. And that's just from consistent behavior year in, year out with the same clients and with the clients they refer. So I think consistency, not only in what you do, but how you show up and how you communicate it is what's important for any realtor. And that's not a luxury comment. From a luxury perspective, why do people choose us? I think it's because we're their leverage. Scarcity is time. That's the biggest scarcity out there, time. We're their leverage, and they know that we're their leverage to become their advocate in the real estate arena. And that's a big thing, because they're their own advocate in the different areas, and they have their own advocates in other areas of their lives. But we become their leverage, so they don't have to spend the time, they don't have to worry about it, that they can be given the information to make empowered, high-level decisions. And we're the ones who support them in that, because we care, because we built the relationships, because we've been there consistently supporting.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And the segue of the day, because speaking of time, we are out of it. So thank you so much, folks. This was fun. I had a good time.
Guys, I learned a lot. Always do.
Excellent. If you could all reach out to Sheila Morrison, she put about 27 questions in the chat. So she'd appreciate a chat. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your wisdom with us. Bye-bye. And back to you, Mr. Davies.